Hello, and welcome to G Fun Facts Online, the show that unpacks the amazing science behind our everyday world. Today, we're talking about travel. We all know our world is in constant motion. Earth spins on its axis, it orbits the sun, and our solar system careens through the galaxy. But there's another kind of motion, one that's much closer to home. Humans have been on the move since our species first walked the Earth, driven by curiosity, by necessity, and by ambition. From the earliest migrations out of Africa to the modern era of next-day shipping and international flights, our journeys have fundamentally reshaped the face of the planet. But here's the twist: we haven't been traveling alone. In our wake, a silent, creeping invasion has been unfolding. Without even realizing it, our travel routes have become superhighways for other species. Our foot trails, our shipping lanes, our flight paths, they have all become biological corridors, allowing plants, animals, and microbes to spread into new territories where they can cause devastating consequences. This is the intricate and often alarming dance of invasion ecology. So buckle up, because today we're tracing the history of human movement to reveal how our greatest journeys created some of the world's biggest ecological problems. The story of human-mediated species dispersal starts way back with our earliest ancestors. Nearly 2 million years ago, when Homo erectus first ventured out of Africa, they became the first hominids to carry the seeds of ecological change across continents. Think about it. These early hunter-gatherers were moving across land bridges that have long since vanished beneath the waves. And as they traveled, they carried more than just their stone tools. They carried the microorganisms in their guts. They carried seeds and burrs clinging to their animal skin clothing. They were, in effect, the first biological couriers. But this was a slow, almost imperceptible process. The real acceleration began with us, Homo sapiens. Starting around 300,000 years ago, modern humans began their own expansion out of Africa. And this time, it was different. We were more numerous, more adaptable, and we spread further and faster than any hominid before us. As we populated every corner of the globe, we became incredibly effective ecosystem engineers. We carried with us the plants we would eventually cultivate, like wheat and rice, for ever-changing landscapes. But we also brought unintentional hitchhikers. A powerful and frankly stark example of this comes from the settlement of the Pacific Islands. When Polynesian navigators masterfully sailed their canoes to the shores of what is now New Zealand around the year 1300, they weren't the only mammals to make landfall. They brought with them the kiore, or Polynesian rat, and the kuri, their domestic dogs. In an ecosystem that had evolved for millions of years without terrestrial mammals, the arrival of these two species was a catastrophe. The rats preyed on the eggs and chicks of ground-nesting birds, while the dogs hunted the iconic, flightless moa to extinction. This was an early, devastating lesson in human-facilitated invasion. For millennia, this dispersal of species was a relatively slow, overland or coastal process. Oceans were formidable barriers. The Americas, Australia, and countless islands remained isolated ecosystems, developing their own unique and wonderful forms of life. But that all changed in the 15th and 16th centuries. The Age of Discovery, as it's known, marked a pivotal turning point. When European explorers like Columbus, da Gama, and Magellan circumnavigated the globe, they did more than just draw new maps. They connected continents that had been separated for eons. They created a worldwide web of biological exchange, and the floodgates opened. This period, often called the Columbian Exchange, saw the intentional and unintentional movement of thousands of species. Potatoes and corn went from the Americas to Europe, transforming diets. Horses and cattle came from Europe to the Americas, transforming cultures and landscapes. But for every beneficial exchange, there was a potential disaster lurking. The story of the European rabbit in Australia is the poster child for this. In 1859, A landowner named Thomas Austin imported just 24 wild rabbits from England to his estate in Victoria. He wanted to hunt them, a little reminder of home. What could go wrong? Well, everything. In a land with mild winters and, crucially, no natural predators adapted to hunt rabbits, the population exploded. Within just a few decades, those 24 rabbits had become hundreds of millions. They spread across the continent, devouring vegetation, causing massive soil erosion, and outcompeting native herbivores. The cost to agriculture and the environment has been astronomical. And then there are the introductions, made with the best of intentions. Take the cane toad. In the 1930s, Australia's sugarcane farmers were struggling with a native beetle that was devastating their crops. Someone had a bright idea. Let's import the cane toad from South and Central America, a creature known to eat beetles. It seemed like a perfect biological control. Except, it wasn't. The toads couldn't reach the beetles, which lived high on the sugarcane stalks. But they did find a continent full of other delicious and completely defenseless native wildlife. Snakes, lizards, insects, even small mammals fell prey to the voracious and highly toxic toads. The cane toad didn't solve the beetle problem. It became a much, much bigger one. These stories from the past are dramatic, but in our contemporary, hyper-connected world, the speed and scale of species movement have reached levels that are simply mind-boggling. Global trade, tourism, and transportation have created a dizzying number of pathways for invasive species to traverse the globe in days or even hours. Let's start with the biggest one, the aquatic superhighway of global shipping. To maintain stability, large cargo ships take on massive quantities of water in one port and discharge it in another. This is called ballast water, and it's a veritable soup of aquatic life. A single ballast tank can contain bacteria, viruses, algae, tiny crustaceans, and the larvae of fish, crabs, and mollusks. When this water is discharged, it's like injecting a sample of one marine ecosystem directly into another. The zebra mussel is a perfect and terrifying example. Native to the seas of Eurasia, these small, striped mussels likely arrived in the North American Great Lakes in the 1980s, flushed from the ballast tank of a transatlantic freighter. In their new home, they found no predators and an abundance of food. They are prolific filter feeders, and their population boomed. They have since spread throughout the continent's waterways, clogging the water intake pipes of power plants and city water supplies, costing billions in maintenance. They've also decimated native mussel populations and fundamentally altered the chemistry and clarity of entire lakes. And it's not just what's inside the ships. The hulls themselves act as moving reefs, carrying barnacles, seaweeds, and other fouling organisms from port to port. It is estimated that on any given day, over 7,000 different species are being transported in the ballast water of ships around the world. It's a global biological lottery, and we're all paying for the losing tickets. Next, let's look at the goods we move around the world. Global trade is a massive conduit for unwanted stowaways. Think about the journey of a single product. It might be assembled in one country, packaged in another using wooden pallets and crates from a third, and then shipped to a fourth. At every step, there's a chance for an insect to hide away. That's almost certainly how the emerald ash borer got to North America from Asia. This small metallic green beetle probably arrived in the wood of shipping pallets. Its larvae burrow under the bark of ash trees, cutting off their flow of nutrients. Since its discovery in Michigan in 2002, it has killed hundreds of millions of ash trees across the continent, functionally wiping them out from many forests. And then there's the trade we engage in for our hobbies and homes. The horticultural and pet trades are huge sources of invasions. We buy beautiful, exotic plants for our gardens, but they can escape cultivation and become invasive weeds. Japanese knotweed, brought to Europe and North America as an ornamental plant, is now a nightmare for homeowners, capable of growing through concrete. Kudzu, the vine that ate the South in the United States, was promoted as a way to control soil erosion. It did that, and then it proceeded to smother everything else, growing up to a foot a day and blanketing entire forests. And pets? When an aquarium owner dumps their fish into a local pond, or a snake owner releases an unwanted pet into the wild, they can be kicking off an invasion. The Burmese pythons now thriving in the Florida Everglades are a direct result of the pet trade. These giant constrictors are apex predators in their new home, and they have caused catastrophic declines in populations of raccoons, opossums, and other mammals. Even our vacations can contribute. We, as tourists and recreationists, are often unwitting travelers for invasive species. Seeds can hitch a ride in the mud on our hiking boots. Insects can hide in our luggage. If you've ever driven past a sign that says, "Don't move firewood," there's a very good reason. That firewood could be harboring forest pests like the emerald ash borer, and moving it just a few dozen miles can start a new infestation in a healthy forest. Recreational boaters can carry aquatic weeds and mussels from an infested lake to a clean one on their propellers and trailers. It happens all the time. The ecological and economic fallout from all this movement is profound. Biological invasions are a leading cause of biodiversity loss, second only to direct habitat destruction. They outcompete native species, they introduce new diseases, they alter habitats, and they unravel entire food webs. On the island of Guam, the accidental introduction of the brown tree snake, likely a stowaway on a military cargo ship after World War II, led to the extinction of 10 of the island's 12 native forest bird species. A once vibrant, noisy jungle fell silent. The economic costs are just as staggering, running into the hundreds of billions of dollars globally every single year. Invasive species damage crops, harm fisheries, reduce forest yields, clog waterways, and impact tourism. The human dimension here is a complex two-way street. Our economic activities and population centers are the primary drivers of these invasions. But in turn, these invasions can shape our societies. The spread of the Asian tiger mosquito, an invasive species that can transmit diseases like dengue and Zika, has massive public health implications. So what can we do? The scale of the problem is immense, but we're not helpless. The most effective and cost-efficient strategy is prevention. It's far easier to stop a species from arriving than it is to eradicate it once it's established. This means better biosecurity at our borders, stricter inspections of cargo, and mandatory treatment of ballast water. It also means public awareness and education. Simple actions, when taken by millions of people, can make a huge difference. Cleaning your hiking boots, following the clean, drain, dry procedure for your boat, buying local firewood, and never, ever releasing pets into the wild are all critical steps. The story of how our own migration routes have created biological corridors is a powerful and perhaps humbling reminder of our profound impact on the planet. Our interconnected world has brought us immense benefits, but it has also created deep vulnerabilities. As we continue to move ourselves and our goods across the globe at an ever-increasing pace, we have to take responsibility for the silent travelers we carry with us. We have a duty to protect the unique, irreplaceable biodiversity that makes our world so rich and resilient. Thanks for tuning in to G Fun Facts Online. Join us next time for another deep dive into the fascinating world of science.